All right, guys, welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast. For those of you that can see us, how are you? Good to see you. For those of you that can't, I have Warren and Easton have joined me here, even though you can't see them right now because they're in camouflage. Because they
just have floating heads.
You can see me now, just from the waist down.
All right, move on before that goes other ways.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking because we wanted to keep things timely, and this is as timely as it gets because the rut is going full swing in Iowa right now. We're going to talk about trying to kill a target buck during the rut.
Don't.
And
Done. Podcast over.
What makes difficult, what changes things, and things like that. I think I have a couple pretty good ideas on things that I'd like to add to that, but do we have some people we need to do some shout-outs to?
We do. Spotify people are on fire as normal. If they keep it up this week, they may put us over 200 reviews already at 5 stars.
All right.
So Spotify people, we're going to give you a little dancey dance. Keep it up. Appreciate you. Ooh, yeah. Get it. Yeah. Trips, baby. And then on Apple, you guys were pretty slow, but we have to shout out to Hillbilly High Test. He says, best hunting show, best of the unsponsored pods on Apple, which I thought was actually really funny timing because that now we can make our announcement that we're super excited to tell everybody that Raised Hunting Podcast is now brought to you by
Reese's.
Psych. We're not bringing on a sponsor. So I just thought it'd be funny, if he's saying best of the unsponsored ones, like, oh, yeah, well, actually, we have a sponsor now. No, this podcast is brought to you guys. And we still question why, because sometimes it gets a little wild, but that's all right. Okay, let's hop into this.
Okay. We're already hopped into it. You know what the topic is. Do you want to go first? You can't go first because you're in the middle of eating again.
Why do you always do that?
I don't
Because you guys eat before the podcast. I'm working.
Oh, yeah, that's all.
I'm doing something
so hard. Jeez. Okay.
I don't have anything to add besides, unless you have a deer during the rut that's your target buck that just happens to find does left and right in his spot, sitting somewhere close by with the correct winds and just waiting for him to bring a doe by.
Well, I think
That's
first,
the only thing I would rely on.
let's define what we're speaking about as a target buck.
A buck that you want to shoot that you're targeting.
I understand that, but I'm saying this is a lot different. In Dad's scenario, you probably only have on a given piece of property 1 to 2 target bucks, right?
Yep.
And now there's other instances where if you're saying if you were to say all you care about is a certain size, say 150 and larger, we're in Iowa, keep that in mind, then you may have 6 or 7 target bucks. And I think that both of those is going to change how you approach your pursuit on either of those.
I think the review is asking about a specific target buck.
deer.
That's just you're just looking for a caliber of deer there. That's not.
Yeah, and I think the person that brought up this topic that started it gave some parameters as far as the deer shows up in mid-October.
Yeah, I can read it real quick.
Stays through December.
They said, so shout out to Austin Shepard for the subject. Could you do a podcast on how to hunt and kill an old mature buck that normally shows up around October 15th through the 25th and stays until the middle of December? That was the specific question.
The first thing that I would tell, it's Austin.
Yes.
First thing that I would say, Austin, is you missed your window if you haven't already killed him in my opinion, to have your best chance at him. Not that he's unkillable, but your best chance was that October 20-something until November 1 or 4th or whatever you consider the beginning of the rut.
Yep.
I mean, that was when you should have been targeting scrapes. You should be doing whatever you could, whatever intel, fill your on-X up so that you can see, got a picture of him here, got a picture of him here, doing X.
So what are you going off of in that instance, though? Because if he hasn't shown up yet, and you're saying that between the 25th and the 1st, let's just say, is your best window, what information are you going off of? Because the deer may not be there yet.
You're
assuming not hunting him if he's not there.
Well, but I'm assuming that he's got
disagree.
some history with him so that you got former information, and you just got to bank on, number one, let's just guess that maybe you had found a shed or you had spotted him during the summer, something told you at least that he was still alive.
That's my point. Is if you don't that I wasn't saying that if he's alive, it's a different story. I'm saying that if you flat out don't know if the deer's alive, you should be looking for other things.
Well, let's use BG as an example. Okay.
Yep.
So we had a deer very similar in nature. He'd showed up in October the past 2 years or 2 years prior. This year he didn't show up quite as early, but we felt confident we had a shed from him. So we knew he made it through the season unless he got some weird EHD could have got him, or a youth hunter could have killed him or something like that, or a bow hunter before then. We felt like he was still alive. And you got to give yourself a little bit of, if you're gonna jump into this where you're gonna hunt target deer type deal, you're gonna have to go off of some information and say, okay, I'm not jumping ship on October 15th because he didn't show up again on the 15th. I got to hang in there for a little bit.
That may be your best opportunity.
Yep.
Because with BG, I went down there and sat actually the exact same spot where he ended up showing up a day before.
Yes.
The evening before. And he was not.
And we didn't have any photos of him. We didn't know. We just were banking on previous information.
Correct.
But you had the right wind. Go sit there, hope that he shows up. And then the goofy sucker showed up the next morning.
Which I will agree, that's hard to do. If you don't know for sure that they're alive, it's going to be hard to do. But if you really want to kill them, and don't go off of previous information of just, meaning previous year of you just had pictures and they were at night. You know, I would be hopefully if I had ideally to me, if I had a scrape inside of the timber that I had daylight photos of him on, that's where I'd be camping out with the correct wind for the next, from the 15th to the 1st, pretty much. Every time, and that's, the only thing I learned that from was bullwinkle, and then when we really started honing in on scrapes and utilizing the rub trees now, I do believe that, like you just said, that's your best window, and it's the most consistent. It's going to be boring. It's not going to be the most exciting, but if you want to kill one deer, that's what I believe you have to do. You got to be really careful of your access point, make sure that they haven't figured that out. Bullwinkle had figured that out. And then you got to just keep doing it over and over and over. And because most of those deer probably aren't daylighting every day for you, or every other day, or even every 3 days. It's maybe going to be once or twice. And that in that time period, you got to be there for it.
Okay. So let's just assume that, I don't know when Austin sent this in, but he didn't kill him during that time. If he's sending this in, and so now the rut has hit.
Well, and we owe Austin an apology because it was 18 days ago.
Oh, so he was looking for help right before.
Yeah, so if you didn't kill him, it's our fault. We apologize.
I'd tell him that he's golden because, in my opinion, that's not the best time. I'm going to preface this because if you're hunting them that time and there's other people that can hunt them, that he can go other places, there's tons of variables that could happen. If you have a situation where you're like, hey, I've got a pretty decent chunk of land here, I know the neighbor or whatever else, and you can say there shouldn't really be anybody else here that's going to shoot this deer, then my opinion is as long as they're staying there, according to him, into December they are, the last week of November, last week and a half of November is going to be 10 times easier to kill him and probably much more entertaining than the first 6 or 7, or the October 25th to the 1st that you guys are talking about. Because in my opinion, yes, that is the best time before randomness hits. And you don't know where they're going to be, when they're going to be, whatever. But when they get to that point, if they're chasing does, it's still going to be somewhere predictable if you can find them during that time period of the last week of November. And from what we saw last year, they're doing more of a pattern than you care to recognize, or that unless you've hunted that late that you pay attention to. And if they're doing that, then you have a pretty dang good idea of what the deer is doing, just about day to day, even if they're still intrigued with chasing some does around and stuff. So I think that he's honestly in an even better of a position now. If he hadn't killed him by then, I wouldn't be pressuring him right now. Maybe go sit some places where you think that you could kill him or something, but I wouldn't be panicking like, oh, I need to make some huge moves.
What I'd love to hear is that Austin's already killed him. That would be
Yeah.
the best scenario,
Mhm.
make us feel better.
Yeah, hopefully he'll
'Cause-
send us a picture and say, "Hey, I did this or I did that," and
Yeah.
we'll know.
But I agree with Easton that it's a good time. I still think that the best time has already passed. But I do think that, and I'll use base drop as one. I killed him on November 22nd, and he went home. In meaning, I ended up shooting that deer about 200 yards, 250 yards from where I got the very first picture of him. And so going back to if the deer shows up and he's going to stay in your core area, then the only thing that you can do during the rut is hunt those stands that you have or stand that you have that when the wind is right, and hope that in between does he passes by again.
Yeah.
Because otherwise he's randomness. He's gone from one place to another, and he's going. I mean, he could disappear on you and that's exactly what happened with base drop. He disappeared on me for 10 days, something like that.
No, it was longer than that. Because remember, we thought that he got killed during the early muzzleloader.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you weren't even chasing him for
Right.
quite a while, and then I pulled a card for you or something,
Yep.
and I was like,
showed up.
"Hey, he's been reincarnated," because
Not dead.
there's a picture and it's absolutely him.
Right.
Yeah. What day here do you think it is that pretty much all bets are off as far as them doing anything consistent?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't even think that they're all that consistent when it comes to that week. I think they're going to be doing that at some point or another throughout each day, but getting them to do it every day or consistently during daylight, there's a lot more factors at play. You could have really warm weather. They're not going to show up till later maybe, or it's dark. Yeah, they might be still coming to that same spot, but later on, they aren't worried about as many things. And it's going to probably I don't know where he's at, but most likely be somewhat cold, and they're going to bed, maybe checking a doe here and there, going to food, going to bed, going to food.
I agree with that. If I had to pick a period, I'm taking the. You told me you only get 5 days to hunt every year to try to kill a specific deer. I'm taking probably the 28th through the 2nd.
We should go back through all the podcasts that we've discussed this, because I think that that's a different answer every year.
No.
Or not every year, every time we talk about
Well,
it.
maybe
It's within a couple days.
So with a couple days, I mean, but
Well, what day do you think that
when
that the window that you're talking about
is over,
is pretty much gone?
November 4th.
November
No,
4th.
without a doubt. That's the day that in my head, which I would say this year, I feel like everything is backed up about 4 or 5 days. I don't know why, other than it just appeared to me that everything that we were looking at didn't hit like I normally see it hit, both from trail camera video, photos, and from what I was seeing, what you guys are seeing. It seemed like we were a little late, because typically I would tell you November 4th, one of us confirms a doe being bred.
Yeah.
We see it. We know that it's now taking place.
Yeah, I'd say to me after the 3rd, pretty much like after the 2nd, I'm like, oh Lord,
It's
like
over.
yeah.
I
So,
don't ever have a deer that's that consistent, even relatively close that early. So
but I
there's
think
no shot.
now I'm trying to think of. So I'm going to make a bold statement here now, that if you're trying to kill a specific target deer, I think the rut is way overrated. Have we ever killed a specific target deer during the rut?
Straight up.
What was the
November
date? Okay. So there's one. Straight up, should have killed Junior in the heat of the rut. Should have killed him.
Juice.
Juice, he was
7th,
13th?
7th and the 13th.
Okay. Those are ultra home bodies, though. Juice was a little bit different, because he was a gangster, and he
All
had
over
a
the
hit
place.
piece on everybody. Like, he was just running around trying to kill any other buck that existed. Okay, so that's 3, though.
When did I kill Touch? Because not that I targeted him. You guys said, go kill this deer, and you put me in one stand, and there
That
it
was
was.
probably around the first week of November, I believe.
He was kind of like Juice, where he was just head hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
he-
if they're around, I mean, if
and you
you
rattled
if you
them in.
know what, it also depends on each deer. That's the other part.
Yeah,
there's
but okay. Any other ones? Because I'm trying to think of all the ones that I think I've killed. BG was
Early.
November 1. The 10 with the stickers was November 2nd. The Bullwinkle was October 22nd. Magnum was October 31st. Yeah, I can't really think of. I don't think I've killed any during the. I've killed good deer during the rut, which I think that's an entirely different thing. 'Cause if you want to kill a good deer, I think the rut can be a
Fantastic time.
great time.
Or a new deer.
Yeah,
I mean, this is when you've been like just biding your time because going, oh man, I can't find a deer to hunt that is what you're looking for.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden the rut hits and someone shows up. And I think that goes with what you said. It even gets better later on at the tail end of the rut when there aren't as many does left in heat, and now they really got to start to travel to find that next doe.
Yep.
So,
Okay. So let's do a little different thing here now, because this is going to go right into my new theory. You only get 5 days. They have to be in November, and you only get 5 days, and we're going to cut out through the 4th. That way we get out of that period that you're talking about. You think is
just narrow
one of the
it
best
down.
windows. I know. Okay. Every day you got 5 days in the entire month of November except for the first 4. What 5 days are you going to take to try to kill? And then should we go a target deer or a big deer?
I think
22nd through the 27th.
22nd through the 27th.
which are you doing? Is this a target deer or is this any deer that fits your age class and
I don't know how
size?
you could possibly answer
Yeah,
that.
let's go target
because
deer first.
There's no way to answer that.
Well,
Because if you have a target deer, though, I'm just saying there's no way to answer that, because if that deer tends to stay there or stay in one area or he's back somewhere or whatever, then
okay, we're going target deer and assuming that he survives through the rut.
yeah. But I'm saying that if you know where he's going to be somewhere,
I'm saying you
Yes.
know all that.
still doing the 22nd through the 27th.
Okay, so your window didn't even change. But
Well,
anyways,
I'm just saying, because if you do a big deer, I mean, it's no doubt.
Well, here's my thoughts on this.
I'd be going way earlier is my point if I had no information on a target deer. I didn't know where he was at, didn't know where he ended up at the end of the year. I'd be trying to figure out where he's going to be running by the most.
Well, here's what I'm just going to flat out admit that I suck at it, at what I'm about to bring up, and that is, I'm fortunate enough to live in Iowa, and I get 2 tags, and I usually buy the landowner tag is during the archery season, and I'm thinking that I've filled the 2 tags twice in 12 years, or once maybe, or maybe twice.
I can only think of once, but
I can think
we were
of-
thinking about this the other day.
Right.
The wide 10 and the big 8.
Yeah, I think that might be the only ones. And
no, there was another one.
I thought there was another
Splits. The year you killed Splits, you killed someone else too, I think.
one too. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at my list. My point being is that I love to think that late season after the rut starts to wind down and man, this is a time to go find that buck. And only in one occasion have I had it work in my favor where I killed base drop on the 22nd. I don't know what I'm doing wrong at that time, but obviously and yet I still tell myself, ooh, just wait. Once this rut starts to slow down, once a bunch of the does have been bred, we'll be able to get on one. And it doesn't work for me. I'm not doing it right. I don't know what I'm doing wrong there. But now at the same time, I still am passing some pretty good deer. I still see, because usually by then, if I'm sitting on that second tag, I'm being somewhat picky.
Well, I also think though that you killed Brahma last year.
Mm-hmm.
Then the year before was straight up. And then who else? Who was before that?
I think the year before that would have been base drop.
Okay, so most of those though, you're using your statewide first.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're
Limited to my land.
So I think that could be a big part of it because now you and some of your stuff you don't have a ton of food.
Right.
So I think that could be a big part of yours is that you're having to work with what you got.
Well, anywhere that you can
being
use
able
your
to
landowner
expand.
tag is not best for late season.
No.
Yeah.
That would be a big part of your issue.
I think that is what I was telling him earlier is I think that if from now on if I haven't punched a tag by like the 3rd or the 4th, I'm going to make myself fly to Mexico and drink a pina colada on the beach for a week. and take a week off, because is what I think happens is you're one of the few people that I see that does this and doesn't seem to have a problem with it. And everybody else, I think that they get a little worn out, right? When they start, especially the guys that can do the all-day sits. Hats off to you, because I cannot do that. So I love sitting with Easton, because a lot of times we got an hour and a half and we're eating sausage. So anyways, but the reason I would do that is because these sits right now can be really, really hard, because sometimes you see a lot of deer, a lot of times you don't, or you see lots and lots of little bucks and you don't see many of your main deer, and there's really not that much rhyme or reason to anything. The more and more I'm looking at these deer, like East and I sat a spot 2 days in a row and had 2 possible shooters, possibly 3 actually, and not
What do you mean,
one.
possibly 3.
The one that we couldn't see very well in, the one that you said was like 150-inch deer.
Yeah, it wasn't
The first
a shooter.
morning. Okay, well, let's just say it was because he was of age.
Okay.
He still didn't come into range, is my point. Wasn't close enough. And then the next one that was an absolute shooter wasn't close enough. And then the third one, same thing. And the problem with it is getting them down to one spot that's under 40 is so flipping hard during this time period that even when you do see them, getting them to actually do it and walk right where you need them to is really, I don't think it's skill as much as it's a hope and a prayer. You know, you're praying that and the only thing that I would think is that there's a really good, if you can find a really good pinch point, and then you have the patience to sit that pinch point, whether or not you're seeing a lot of deer or not, over and over and over and over, and probably all day, yeah, you're probably going to catch one of those big, big deer doing it, and you're going to kill them. A guy like me, I couldn't do it. I just flat couldn't do it, and I'm willing to admit that 100% because I would just go nuts, and it wouldn't be fun to me. So I think if I then took that time period off, it does seem like once these deer start running out of does, that it breaks loose a little bit, and you do have a better chance because they're making way more rounds. And then so my whole premise with that is that I'd be fresh, right? I'd be ready to go hunting, and then I'd be coming back into a window when I think you have new big deer show up, and you could get into that later window where you could now pattern one. And I think if you're going to do that, I think you need to take 2 to 3 days off from hunting and do nothing but scouting.
Yeah,
where you're going and glassing.
Go see what they're doing.
Yep, and finding, okay, we've got a deer here that's coming out to this food source, or this one's doing that, and now you start your ascent and try to move in on them. That's mostly from an observation standpoint, as I've been cameraman mostly. But you can see, obviously it doesn't mess with me near as much, but it still messes with my head. It really messes with his head when you just keep doing it over and over and over, and you try to strategize, and there's really, just like Eli, you know, he's chasing deer right now. He's like, I think he's doing this. I think he's doing that. And I'm like, dude, I told him that this morning. He's like, what do you think? I'm like, I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to anything he's doing. He is looking for a nice piece of meat. That's what he's doing.
That's all you consider them? That's disrespectful.
That's all the deer consider them. We have video proof there's no consent.
Yeah, that is.
So
that
what
is
would?
the truth.
So what are we offering? I think what we're offering, if it's this time of year, right now, when I would say we're in the heart of the rut, whether that in his location, whether he's there yet or not, because I don't know where he's from, but in the heart of the rut, you got to just sit those areas that are core area stands and hope that he comes through there, or sit a place that you know lots of does are frequenting, and hopefully that, because this is the time when he will make an appearance in a field that you probably have had a hard time getting him to do that in the past.
Yep.
You know, they'll just walk right out there. Yesterday morning, one of our target deer, I had him close enough to shoot and didn't have a shooting lane. And he walked out at like 8:30 in the morning. You know, I mean, we're talking 2 hours after daylight.
Yep. I think this is a time period where you got to stay mentally tough. Don't let it get in your head. Don't think that don't make any crazy adjustments. You just have to keep sitting it out. And I think the other thing I think from my younger self and what I've learned now is, and this is honestly probably only applicable really to people in Iowa, because the thing we have to keep in mind is almost every other state has a rifle season that's starting, or some sort of gun season right now, or some of them are already started. that's definitely going to affect your deer's odds. Ours doesn't start, we don't have one until December. So we can kind of get them back on a little bit later season pattern. But I used to fear the end of the rut, thinking like, oh no, I haven't killed a deer yet and the rut's almost over. I'm never going to be able to kill one after that. And now I would think that it'd be reversed to where, okay, I think I'm actually going to have, as long as the deer is there and I have a food source, I have better odds if I can find him of killing him. That's your key factor there, I think. If you can find him, like you've said, I think you have a really good chance at killing that deer.
Agreed.
I'll make an opinion on that. I dread the rut. I hate it with a burning passion. Absolutely hate it. It's fun to watch deer.
You want to
but
go
at
to
a certain
Mexico
point-
too?
Yeah, I will go because I don't give a crap about just watching a bunch of deer run around anymore. Like, I've got goals. I've got ambition. All right? I want to complete something, and that is not when to do it. And I am tired of just sitting there, oh, there's another tiny buck. Oh, there's another tiny buck. And when I'm saying tiny buck, we're in Iowa, and I'm seeing fork and horns left and right. It's freaking ridiculous. So I have grown in the past this year and last year. Screw the rut. I'd much rather hunt before and after. I can't stand it because it drives me up a wall.
Why don't you tell us how you really feel?
Yeah.
Huh?
Screw the rut. That's how I feel.
There's so many people sitting out there going, wah, wah, wah. He's seeing buck after buck, and he's complaining.
Yep.
No, the rut can be tough anywhere. I mean, just number one, getting them to stand still. They come through. They come within 10 yards a lot of times and just motoring through or chasing a doe all around. And they might even come by 3 or 4 times and you can't get them. You're yelling at them and everything else, and they won't stop. But at the same time, it's that time of year when they do come out of the woodwork. They bucks you have not seen making daylight appearances will make daylight appearances, and that's where all day sits can be beneficial because you can see them at any time. It's no different than us driving to and from work now. We're hunting in the mornings, hunting in the afternoons, and yet when I'm driving in, I see a deer crossing a field. You know, it might be a small buck, but it tells me he's on his feet, and guaranteed if there's a big buck out there and he's just finished with a doe and he's going to the next one, he doesn't care what time it is now.
Yep.
He'll make that, unless he needs a recovery time. One of the things that I would add that we saw a little bit earlier, and this is like way off topic, but another thing that you might key in on is pay attention to what's going on with the area that you're in as far as moisture. Because we actually I have a couple ponds, like small, not ponds like fish ponds, but like just water units that sit in the ground. And Nick and I were sitting one afternoon and had a good buck. Matter of fact, he'll be a target buck next year, but he just ain't quite there. And he went by us, and I was like, where is this sucker going? And he went straight to my pond, which was empty because I don't put water in it. It just fills from natural rainwater. Well, it was empty, and you could hear him pawing on it. He's pawing at that thing, clanking it and everything. Mm-hmm. No water in it, and turned and walked away. Water, as far as I know, is legal in every state as far as having it as like an attractant or as a putting water out if you live in one of these drought areas, or you find the creek bed that's got that, because the couple days later we're in a different spot and a buck comes down and you could see that the creek is all dried up. It's completely dry, but there was one place that was wet, meaning didn't even look like there was any water. And that buck pawed at the ground there, and I think he found, and you could hear him trying to get this little bit of water out of there.
That's
I think that could be huge.
Joey killed his buck right off of a stand that we've had multiple deer now come
to get a drink.
Us, and it's literally the little creek that's like there's nothing in it hardly, but it was right under us, and I've watched a couple now drink out of it. Specifically around, go out of their way to drink out of it right there.
Especially when they're running as hard as they are,
and it's this warm,
and it gets this warm, and they've got their winter coat on already because we've already had some cold weather. And man, he might take just a minute to peel away a little bit to go grab a drink and get back onto what he's doing.
Yep.
And that's one of those things where it's not necessarily just an enjoyment thing. He has to have it.
Yep.
He's got to have water.
Yeah, I think that could be. I would really be curious to try a little bit more of that in the future. I think that, especially on these warm years, that could really pay off.
For sure.
I think that's what I was trying to think of is, I don't know how, the first few years we lived here, I got really lucky.
We got
on the deer I was killing
like
on November 10th. Because I'm trying to think of now the last time that I saw a good deer, like a good mature deer or even 140, 50 plus inch deer that was locked with a doe that came by me. Because I killed two or three in a row right away when we moved here, and now I'm trying to think of the last couple of years. I can hardly think of any. I know base drop was with a doe, right?
Yep.
But other than that, I haven't had a good deer.
Well, and straight up was with 2 or 3 does. The 3 does came out in the food plot, and he skirted around to run another buck off, and then made his way out.
Yeah.
I've only had one do that, and it was not during
So-
the rut.
Well, but let's finish this with Austin, because what would we tell him? I mean, we can give our opinion coming up. Hopefully, if he hasn't killed him, hopefully that will be information that he can use, and that is, man, take every piece of information that you have from past years, whether it's last year only or 2 years, and try to see if you can put together any kind of pieces of a puzzle that tell you where you need to sit and where you need, like, what direction he's coming from, what is he going to, what's his food source, where's he bedding at, because he will get somewhat consistent again to a degree, and he'll still be in the mindset that if he thinks it's that time of day and he's not with a doe, he might go check somewhere. So he may show up to that scrape at 8:30 in the morning, 2 hours after daylight.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would tell you, is go back to your home base, basically the core area where you'd seen him. Take whatever information you've got from the past years and try to apply it and be ready.
Yep. I would agree 100%.
Anything else? Did we cover that one pretty good?
I think we did pretty good on that personally.
Well, the one other topic, but I know you were reaching for your wacky facts, but the one thing that you were talking about, would it change if it wasn't Austin's particular deer, and if you were just trying to kill a mature deer or trying to kill a certain size deer? Does any of that change? I think you had mentioned that we wanted to address both ways.
Yeah, I think I would be focusing between like the 17th and the 22nd, or maybe the 18th through the 23rd, just because I do believe that, and I think that requires a little bit different mindset, because I think if you're going to kill a really big deer during that time period, it's probably going to be one you don't know. And I like that kind of thing, because that's why I like shed hunting different places so much, because it's exciting to me to what could show up. And you can go back in our trail camera catalogs every single year, and there is always a new big deer that we don't know that shows up in that window. Now, I think killing them could be hard, but
right.
I would like to at least be sitting there hoping with that opportunity may arise. So
For sure.
yeah, if I was just trying to kill a big mature deer, that's probably definitely the time window that I would be doing it.
I don't know what the date is. I can think of 3 deer. For some reason, I'm thinking I have a second tag curse, because now that I think about it, I've had 3 shot opportunities.
Goodness.
I've had 3 shot opportunities with my second tag that I have completely missed by a long ways. Slugger.
Yep.
That was equipment malfunction, shot straight over top of him. I still don't. I know you think I used the wrong pin on the drop tine,
The freak.
the freak thing. I have no idea. And then there was one other. Oh, and then the one at the 80, I shot underneath him. I misjudged the yardage on that one.
Was any of those in the same year?
No.
Well, that'd have been 3 years right there.
Right. So I had opportunity. So my point is, I put myself in the.
So you were getting the shot still.
David is 1 for 4 on his second tag.
All those were quite a bit later too.
They were later. Well, I don't know about Slugger. Can't
Man, that
remember.
sucks
He-
to be your camera guy, because
I
they're probably
think-
sitting there just waiting for the shot.
Oh, I was with him on Slugger, and he was
That one was done. I mean, that was an equipment malfunction deal.
yeah, that was. But we were hunting hard.
Yeah.
I think that one was like the 20th or around there. And then I think that the drop tine deer was really late.
No, that was the last day of the season.
Was it?
I do remember that. That was because I would already. Matter of fact, the interview even says, "Well, today is it. This is the last one, and we'd have no more." And then it wasn't. While we were doing the interview,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I think it was Drew was filming, and he's like,
Caden.
or Caden,
Yeah.
and he's like right behind you.
Yeah. Well, and that deer had gotten onto a pattern.
Mm-hmm. He had been there day after day, but I didn't
Yep.
know that. I hadn't checked the camera yet.
Oh, that was after?
That was after.
Yeah, because he was really consistent, I remember, for a few days. Yeah, well, that picks up 3 of them right there.
Yep.
So you're still getting the shots, but just killing them. Okay.
All right. We're going to the – you're going to say it right today? Because he's changed the name of this like 4 or 5 times.
He does every time.
Warren's Wacky Facts.
Oh, wow.
Or Warren's Wild Facts.
Oh, my gosh.
A human brain operates on about 15 watts. So I think if we hook up a car battery to your brain, maybe we'll get full usage out of it.
You need to come up with better facts.
It's my segment.
These are boring lately. They used to be, like, pretty weird or out
What
there.
color a flamingo is or whatever.
That
Why
was
is
a boring one, though,
right,
too.
Why is a flamingo that color?
You're like 3. You're
So,
like 0 for 3.
15
Squirrels
watts.
can't burp or vomit, nor can
Yeah,
any other rodent.
That's more like
This
what I
this
bet
happens
you
to be
hear.
why rat poison is so effective. Other mammals tend to expel any toxic substance they ingest.
Oh.
Interesting.
Crisco can
Holy
definitely
shit, this
vomit.
one's crazy. The extinct Colossus penguin stood as tall as LeBron James.
That's freaking cool.
Could you imagine
A giant penguin.
if I was a penguin
Colossal
that big?
penguin.
I would be chasing all the leopard seals with my beak.
I'm sure there's a leopard seal that's quite a bit
Revenge.
bigger than, too, then.
That's wild.
Freaking polar bears feasting on a penguin.
So that's your wacky facts of the day. We got a penguin that is oversized.
Yes.
I wonder what the white-tailed deer looked like back then.
Probably really
Man, they
freaking
had to be, you probably were scared to hunt them. They probably had fangs. If I've seen,
Thanks.
yeah, I've seen some stuff like they had like fang, like they were meat eaters.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
I don't know.
What was that moose looking thing? Remember? Did you?
That's a
Have you seen
centaur.
those? No. What was it? Nick said it was the Irish elk. That thing's wild. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't think so.
They're bigger than a moose. They look like a moose, but they're
Bigger than
like
a moose.
12 feet at the shoulder or some crazy shit. Like you'd have to probably be shooting a 900 grain arrow to kill one of those.
Yeah.
Let's
It's
see.
just- no. All right.
900 Green arrow.
Well,
All right.
we're going to get out of here.
All right. Well, there's Warren's wacky facts. They're looking up the Irish elk. We'll save that one for the next time. That will be the next wacky fact. So we'll put you on suspense mode. Thank you guys for joining in. We appreciate you. Hopefully you guys are whacking some deer. It is that time of year that it's just time to, it's so much fun. Even whether the weather gets bad or whatever, when you're deer hunting, it just seems to all be good. So
If you've killed one, send us pictures.
yeah, send pictures. We'd love to see it. And if you have topics, we'll try to do them timely. Apologize to Austin again for not getting to his right away. So
Leave
Other
those
than that,
reviews, please.
Raised Hunting, signing
Spotify,
off.
we know you got us.